On July 8, 1099, the siege of Jerusalem began amid desperation and fervor as Christian soldiers initiated their efforts to capture the city. The Christian soldiers, numbering around 15,000, had endured a harsh journey, hunger gnawing at their resolve as they approached Jerusalem. As they marched, the soldiers raised their voices in prayer, unified by their faith and determination to reclaim the holy city from the grasp of its defenders. Watching from the battlements, the Muslim defenders prepared to withstand the siege, their expressions revealing a mix of concern and resolve. The Muslim defenders began their preparations, stacking supplies and fortifying defenses, aware of the importance of their role in safeguarding the city from invasion. Rumors of the march reached the local inhabitants of Jerusalem, causing a mixture of fear and despair among the city's population. Loaded with faith and desperation, the ranks of Christian soldiers pressed on, determined to reach their goal despite the growing hardships. As night fell, the Christians camped outside the city limits, sharing stories of faith and perseverance, hoping for divine intervention. In response to the threat, the Muslim defenders strategized their defenses, employing their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. The following morning, the Christian soldiers resumed their march, the sight of Jerusalem igniting a renewed sense of purpose within them. Their leaders offered motivational speeches, igniting the soldiers' spirits as they set their sights firmly on Jerusalem's walls. The atmosphere thickened with tension as preparations for assaults on the fortified walls began, strategies taking shape under the relentless sun. Meanwhile, within the city, the defenders fortified their positions, gathering additional supplies as the knowledge of the siege spread. Underneath the city walls, the Christians began their initial skirmishes, testing the defenses as they sought any vulnerabilities. The defenders showed valor and skill, repelling initial attacks, but the determination of the Christian soldiers held strong against adversity. As the first day of conflict wore on, both sides felt the weight of the siege. Exhaustion began to overshadow the initial fervor of the conflict. Nightfall brought a brief pause, allowing both sides to regroup and reassess their strategies in the shadow of the city's ancient walls. Unified in their faith, the Christian soldiers planned for renewed assaults, believing divine providence would guide them to victory. At the same time, the Muslim defenders held council, sharing tales of valor from their ancestors, renewing their commitment to defend Jerusalem. The second day of the siege began, and both sides braced for another intense confrontation, the fate of Jerusalem hanging in the balance. Both sides recognized the stakes. Jerusalem represented more than just territory. It was a symbol of faith and identity. Amidst the chaos, the struggle for Jerusalem unfolded as faith clashed with determination, marking the beginning of a historical confrontation. As dawn broke on the second day, the Christian soldiers gathered together, lifting their voices in a powerful hymn, their voices echoing off the ancient stone walls of Jerusalem, aimed at inspiring cohesion and courage. Hearing the hymns, the Muslim defenders atop the walls exchanged worried glances, recognizing the tangible spirit of their opponents, leading to shared concern over the possibility of a determined assault. Encouraged by their hymn, the Christian forces assembled into battle formations, brandishing swords and shields, shouting fervent prayers to bolster their morale as they prepared to charge at the city walls once more. The defenders quickly recognized this renewed fervor and began reinforcing their positions, checking weapons and strategizing amongst themselves in tense whispers among the parapets. With a battle cry, the Christian soldiers launched their new assault against Jerusalem's defenses, utilizing battering rams and ladders, determined to breach the city walls. As the Christians assaulted, the Muslim defenders responded fiercely, launching stones and arrows from the walls, their intricate armor glinting in the sunlight as they fought to maintain the city's defenses. After hours of relentless combat, the Christian forces found temporary cover, gathering around their leaders to recuperate and strategize for the next wave of attacks as the sun began its descent. Seeing their adversaries regrouping, the Muslim defenders took a moment to assess their own supplies, recounting stories of past victories to bolster their morale whenever doubt crept in. Nightfall brought a brief respite for both sides, allowing them to reinforce their camps. The Christians lit campfires, sharing rations and stories, igniting hope amid their dire situation. Meanwhile, the Muslim defenders organized watch rotations, ensuring that every person stayed alert to protect their hard-earned city throughout the active night. The following day, both sides faced the harrowing reality of dwindling resources, prompting an even greater sense of urgency as supplies ran low amid the siege. As tensions heightened, both armies exchanged defiant shouts, mingling faith with fervor, showcasing the psychological aspect of the battle as each side sought to shake the other's resolve. Desperation led the Christian soldiers to employ siege tactics, constructing makeshift devices, characterized by their resourcefulness and unwavering determination to breach the walls of Jerusalem. Meanwhile, the Muslim defenders utilized their own ingenuity, setting up traps and reinforcing weak points in the walls, illustrating their determination to protect their storied city. In the shadow of the high walls, both sides resorted to employing scouts to gather intel, each side attempting to outmaneuver the other as they prepared for the next confrontation. Upon receiving news of reinforcements on either side, both armies braced themselves for an escalation in hostilities, realizing their collective destiny hung in the balance. With the stage set for greater conflict, the day ended with both sides taking a moment to reflect on the intense battles and personal losses endured in their quest for Jerusalem. Before dawn broke once more, both forces awoke, steeling themselves for a day that promised to be vital in the ongoing saga of Jerusalem's siege, deepening their resolve. As the third day of the siege commenced, the Christians prepared to rally their forces for a final, decisive assault, ignited by their hopes of divine favor. Meanwhile, Muslim defenders mourned comrades lost in combat, intensifying their resolve not to let their sacrifices go in vain, embodying their commitment to defend Jerusalem. With resolve solidified, both sides prepared for the climactic battle of the Siege of Jerusalem, understanding their faith and identity were intertwined with the fate of this storied city. On the morning of July 8, 1099, as the sun rose over Jerusalem, the atmosphere was tense. The Christian soldiers, starved and weary, gathered for one last prayer, hoping for divine guidance. Their voices echoed in unison, a sound of desperation mingled with unwavering faith. With determination fueling their actions, the Christian soldiers initiated their assault on the city walls just after sunrise. They formed lines, wielding their weapons with fierce intent, while the Muslim defenders prepared themselves for the impending clash. The first waves of assault met the city's formidable defenses. The crash of wooden rams against the stone fortifications echoed throughout the valley, as defenders shot arrows and hurled stones down upon their attackers, emphasizing the harsh reality of their struggle. Despite their efforts, the initial assaults were met with fierce resistance. The defenders demonstrated remarkable skill, showcasing their knowledge of the fortifications, leading to multiple repelled charges from the besieging forces. As the hours of combat dragged on, a temporary stalemate arose. Exhausted and battered, both sides retreated to their respective positions to regroup and reassess their strategies amid mounting casualties. As night fell over Jerusalem, both armies found themselves facing a moment of respite. The Christian soldiers huddled around flickering fires, sharing tales of hope and faith, while the Muslim defenders reinforced their barricades and prepared for another day of battle. Early on the following day, invigorated by a night of resolve, the Christian soldiers prepared for a renewed assault. Their leaders rallied them, and hymns of victory rang through the air, invoking a sense of divine purpose as they gathered their forces. As the sun climbed higher, the Christians advanced once more, emboldened by their convictions. They launched themselves against the walls, mounting a full frontal attack with siege towers now moved into position to support their advance. Engagement escalated as the two armies clashed fiercely. The cries of battle and the sounds of metal meeting metal resonated through the streets, both sides fighting with equal fervor to claim victory. Despite the courage of the Christian soldiers, the day progressed with heavy losses on both sides. The toll of battle weighed heavily, yet neither force showed signs of yielding. By midday, notable figures from both sides emerged to rally their troops. Leaders stood amidst their warriors, shouting words of encouragement, knowing the future of Jerusalem depended on their resolve. As the day waned, the Christian forces renewed their charges with desperation. The defenders, sensing the fatigue among their opponents, fortified their positions, determined to protect their city from invaders. As night fell again, both sides regrouped. The Christians shared stories of sacrifice and hope, while the Muslims reaffirmed their duty to defend, aware of the stakes looming over Jerusalem. With the dawn of a new day rising, anticipation ran high. Both armies prepared for what would be the defining moment of the siege, each side aware that faith and identity were intertwined with the fate of the city. The Christian forces launched another assault. They used a combination of strategy and fervor, employing siege engines in their attempt to breach the city's defenses. Desperation fueled the Christian soldiers as they fought bravely, taking heavy losses while the defenders became weary but remained resolute, showcasing their skill in battle. As momentum shifted, the defenders rallied, launching counterattacks that pushed the Christian forces back, highlighting the remarkable resilience of both armies during the conflict. As night fell once more, the siege had reached a boiling point, with feelings of despair and desperation clashing against unwavering faith on both sides, underscoring the high stakes of their struggle. As dawn broke on the 9th day of battle, tensions erupted into chaos as the siege continued with renewed vigor. Each side poised for the inevitable clash that would close the fate of Jerusalem. Finally, after brutal days of siege, the culmination came, the resolve of the attackers against the resilience of the defenders, clashing violently as both sides strove for victory. As the siege concluded, the Christian soldiers triumphed, capturing Jerusalem, a historic moment marked by faith, sacrifice, and the complex legacies of both sides in this crucible of warfare.